being hard on yourself doesn't get you any further. If anything, it like takes you out because you're going to just overthink, overanalyze, overprepare, and just like be in this constant anxious state.
Realizing that so many people struggle with the same thing and like, oh, I'm not an anomaly. Like, I'm not alone in this.
I feel like I'm just like loving myself a lot more. And with that has come a lot more opportunity and expansion in ways that I didn't really think I would get.
I'm not where I am because of the company. I'm where I am because of me. And I just felt this internal confidence of it's Christin who got myself here.
Welcome to The Art of Speaking Up, a podcast that helps professional women access the limitless potential that lies within them. I'm your host, Jessica Guzik, and my mission is to help you find that spark inside you that has the power to transform your career in ways you may not have thought possible. I'm so excited that you're here. And now, on to the show. Welcome to the podcast. Today, I am interviewing two prior clients of mine, and it is a good one, so I am so excited for you to listen. If you have ever felt overwhelmed at work, I know that was certainly my experience at the start of my corporate career. I was very anxious. I would overthink what I wanted to say. I would constantly second guess myself. If these are struggles that you relate to, and if you ever worry that maybe these struggles will interfere with your growth and impact as a leader, this conversation is going to help you let go of some of that fear. Today, you're going to meet Julia and Christin. These are two incredible women that I had the pleasure of working with inside of the Art of Speaking Up Academy. The Art of Speaking Up Academy is my signature program, and this is where I help my clients build real, authentic self-confidence and develop executive-level communication skills so that they can grow their voice and their impact in the workplace. Today, you are going to hear Christin and Julia walk through their process of turning down the inner psychological noise of self-doubt and imposter syndrome and learning to feel confident and proud of their unique voices and skill sets as leaders. You're going to hear us talk about why perfectionism kills your self-confidence, how to let go of habits like over-preparing, why it's so important to stop criticizing yourself, how to stop feeling like you're quote-unquote missing something that other people know, and also what actually helps you build confidence and then what isn't so useful when it comes to building confidence. So you're going to meet Christin. Christin Tate is a COO. She has 15 years of experience in healthcare, and she is passionate about delivering results through strategic thinking, collaboration, and innovation. And you're going to meet Julia. Julia is a sales professional and a university instructor, and she specializes in HR technology and analytics. Before we dive in, I want to let you know that the next cohort of the Art of Speaking Up Academy is opening for enrollment on Friday, December 5th. If you are ready to go on your own journey of building deep, authentic confidence and finding your voice as a leader, make sure you add yourself to the waitlist by clicking the link in the show notes. Being on the waitlist ensures that you will get first access to enrollment and exclusive waitlist-only bonuses. I will share the link in the show notes. And now we are going to meet Julia and Christin. You will hear from Julia first. Let's dive in. So something that I'm super curious about is like coming into this work, how did you define confidence and did that change for you?
I came into the program definitely viewing confidence as black and white. You know, there's some people who are confident, who don't make mistakes. They just show up. They're always super articulate. They take up space. And I viewed it as kind of always showing up, being perfect and always being confident. And so I personally felt like, oh, well, sometimes I do show up confident, but other times I don't, or other times I stumble. And because I stumbled, I'm just not a confident person. And so the program really helped me kind of evolve my thinking around confidence and just see it as something that does ebb and flow. And just because you make mistakes doesn't mean you lack confidence. Just because one day you show up and you don't do your best job or you don't do things in a quote unquote perfect way doesn't mean that you're not a confident person and people don't perceive you as confident. So I think throughout the program, I just started to slowly untie perfectionism and confidence. And I've really stepped into what makes someone confident is like being authentic and showing up and making mistakes and being like okay with it and moving on rather than letting that hold us back and hold back our authenticity and how we really want to show up.
Yes, I think being comfortable with mistakes is such a telltale gauge on confidence. I'll pivot to you, Christin. So, how did you define confidence initially? And did that definition change for you?
Yeah, I think initially it's very similar to what Julia was saying with regards to it being black and white. Like there's some people that I work with just show up and are very sure of themselves every single time I see them. And it's like, wow, that woman is so confident. And then I think as I went through the program, it just became way more nuanced. It was like, some days you're really confident, things are going your direction, you feel good, you act good, you look good. And then other days it's just not there for you. And that doesn't mean you're not a confident person. You don't have to look at it like that, but it's more of like an evolving process. And for me, particularly, I think I show up generally pretty confident in my meetings, but sometimes after the meetings, I will have a vulnerability hangover or I'll have hard thoughts towards myself, like I shouldn't have said that in the meeting, or I wasn't proud of the way that I phrased that. And so I'd kind of be hard on myself after the fact. Having less of that after hangover of vulnerability to me has redefined confidence in that I can be confident before, after, and during meetings and not just during. I think that's mainly how it changed for me.
Oh, I love the before, during, after lens. So, Julia, I know something that we had talked about was this idea of you 2.0 and using that as a way to help you make progress. So first, the term you 2.0 might be unfamiliar to someone listening. So what does you 2.0 mean to you? And then tell us how it really helped you with your own growth.
My you 2.0 is kind of the version of yourself that shows up fully without fear, putting up their hand, speaking up, and not bogged down by all the thoughts and emotions that often hold us back from pushing ourselves and doing like the big scary things that we know we want to do and we can do, but we say no or we talk ourselves out of it. That's kind of what you 2.0 meant to me, was this like version in my brain that I envision that I know I can become, but I just like was held back by a lot of those inner dialogues. And so starting the program with this concept of you 2.0 of like, how would you show up? What behaviors would you change? What thought patterns would you take on in that you 2.0 version? I think really helped me throughout the program when you are feeling stuck or when you're experiencing difficult emotions or down on yourself. You always come back to like, okay, what would you 2.0 do in this moment? And I think that was kind of like a driving force or gave me that fire to be like, okay, we're going to do that instead of default back to like the thought patterns and the behaviors that are kind of holding us back.
That's such a great point of like something doesn't go well or it's feeling hard and then you feel fire, as opposed to often then the hard thing gets us stuck and we slow down and shrink back. And it's so tricky because that's the moment where it's hardest to feel that, but that's exactly it. And something that I'd be curious to hear from either of you on, I'll tee up this question by sharing the idea that a lot of times our pursuit of confidence is initially a way our perfectionism is expressing itself, but we don't realize that. And so I'd just be curious to hear either your thoughts on perfectionism and confidence or whether you relate to that idea that I just shared.
Yeah. I mean, as I mentioned at the beginning, to me, being perfect meant being confident. It's like a byproduct. Perfectionism, it holds you back from being confident because, as I mentioned, like when you're constantly fixated on showing up a certain way, saying things a certain way, like you're not confident because you're constantly overanalyzing and comparing yourself to this like perfect version that maybe one day you'll attain, but it's also like a standard that you've set for yourself that no one else has set. You're setting these like crazy standards for yourself that no one has set for you. And then you use that bar as like a reference point to just like compare yourself to. So I think for me, the more that I was able to like let go of perfectionism and quiet the inner critic when I was either made a mistake or when I was like preparing a lot, over preparing, And I found that whenever I was in that perfectionist mode where I was over preparing and like obsessive, that was actually when I did like the worst. And I showed up less confident because the whole time I was like on edge about trying to show up a certain way. So for me, throughout the program, I really learned that like if you can just let go of that and like lean into the messiness, you'll actually just create more space for you to show up. And when you are authentic and like people can just feel that you're speaking from the heart, I think that's when you're your most like confident self.
100%. Well, one thing I wanted to see if you wanted to share about was your mock presentation, because I think that was such a fascinating example of everything you're sharing.
Sure. Yeah. At the end of the program, we did a mock presentation where we were able to take everything that we learned in the program and do a mock presentation to Jess and get feedback from her in the group. And as I mentioned, I'm an over preparer and I want to kind of know every word I'm going to say in my presentation. That being said, this time around, for this presentation, I didn't really have a lot of time to prep. And so I went into it just doing as much as I could in the moment, knowing that I like prepared as much as I could. And I did a really great job and I got really great feedback. And also at the end, I wasn't criticizing myself. I just went into it being like, I'm going to do my best. I know what the slides say. I know what I'm talking about. I'm going to trust myself, which is something I really, really struggled with. I don't need to compare myself to the way that Christin said it. Like I'm going to say it in my unique way. I got really great feedback. And I think that was a testament to like leaning into your own knowledge and like you're trusting yourself and your capabilities rather than constantly chasing this perfectionistic way of doing something. And I've seen that more and more at work. It's like the more that I over prepare, the more that I'm obsessed over every little word and every little thing, I actually get like worse feedback versus when I just show up and I'm like natural and I'm in the flow. I've actually gotten some of the best feedback from those types of experiences. So I think just getting out of that perfectionist mindset and like lowering the pressure really lets you kind of lean into your own knowledge and skills. And in the end, it's benefited me just letting go of that.
Just to give a thought on that too, is like, I think that there's like a heaviness with perfectionism that I noticed. And I've told you just to like, I'm not like a super perfectionist, but I noticed throughout the class getting different feedback from people in the class of like, they sleep better and they feel more relaxed and like all of these physiological signs that their nervous system is ramping down a little bit, because I think there is this heaviness that weighs on people's shoulders when they try to be perfect, that naturally you start to idle a little bit higher in your nervousness and anxiety. And I did notice that throughout the group is like their well-being improved because they weren't trying so hard to be perfect.
That is a beautiful point that I really hadn't thought of in the way that you shared it until you said it. And I think it's especially important for us as women because we are constantly putting pressure on ourselves. And then in our goal of becoming more confident, we turn it into another thing that's stressful and another thing that creates pressure, as opposed to, you use the phrase well-being. I think that's a wonderful way to think about it, as opposed to something that supports our well-being, which I feel so strongly about. That this journey is about us deserving more and having more, not doing more and performing more. And I think it's really easy to like mix those things up because it's a subtle thing.
And your body internalizes that stuff and in a seemingly negative way for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's such a fascinating thought. And I'm curious, Christin, if you have any other thoughts just on the perfectionism confidence topic.
Yeah, I resonate a lot with what Julia said. You know, when Julia says just letting it go, I think people might think that there's just a moment in time where you decide to let it go. And that was not my experience at all. It's like, it's a journey. And like some days it's easier to quote, let it go. And other days, like I still work through it and I have to use a lot of self-talk to quote, let it go. Eventually, letting it go becomes easier, faster, more natural, but it's not a point in time where you make a decision to let it go. But I think that was like a big learning curve for me as well. And I do remember this time as well in grad school where you spend all this time and you prep for your dissertation for the doctorate degree and you have to give this big presentation. And, I wrote the document. I researched the document. I know everything about what I was presenting on. And I just remember there was like a moment in time where I was just like, why am I practicing this so hard? Nobody knows this better than I do. And I actually think practicing it more and more is actually hurting me because I'm getting caught up on the really specific language rather than just being confident in my knowledge. And I remember going into it with more of that mindset, and it actually went really well. And it kind of was just like a building block of confidence for me. Like, oh, I don't need to over practice stuff to get it right. And I think the more and more of like little wins and successes you have helps build that foundation of confidence, but you also need to reflect. And I think that's like one of the wonderful things about the course is like it forces you to reflect and see progress throughout the course. You can see how far you've come and notice the confidence that you've built.
Yes. And high achievers, I don't know if you all identify with that label. I certainly do. But I think something that we are not very good at is noticing progress, evaluating progress. We are very future oriented, which can create issues if we are trying to grow confidence. Confidence in part comes from a view of the past. If we're not looking at the past or we're looking at it through a distorted negative lens, that's going to make things hard. And that's why I'm always forcing everyone to bring celebrations. Awesome. Okay, let's stay on you, Christin, for the next one. And then I'll go back to Julia. The next one is just advice for someone who's working on their confidence. This is an important goal for them. If there are one or two things you could offer to that person as suggestions that would support their journey, what would you say?
I would say that it is just that. It's a journey and you have to zoom out. And if you're going to be hard on yourself every single day, it's going to be a really hard, long journey. And it's better to have compassion for yourself and recognize that you don't learn a skill in one day. You would never throw a kid in a pool and say, today you're going to learn how to swim. You would say, this is going to take a summer. This is going to take 4, 5, 6 months, maybe even longer. And you would teach them the strokes and you teach them how to breathe and you teach them how to use their body, but you would never expect them to learn it in a day. I don't think we can expect something as important and as deep as confidence to learn that so fast as we might expect.
So beautifully said. How about you, Julia?
Yeah, I would echo what Christin said, just around giving yourself grace and not being so hard on yourself. In the program, I really loved some of the kind of mindset work that we did and like giving yourself that compassion, which is something that you said is like a performance strategy, which is something I never really considered, is like the more that you can just give yourself compassion, I think the quicker you can rebound and move on and be more confident. And typically when we think about performance and confidence, like compassion isn't in the dialogue. And so that is something that I would advise people is just like give yourself compassion. Don't be so hard on yourself and just take it day by day.
Can I tell a quick story that just came to mind?
Yeah, please.
So like on these Wednesday nights where we had this course, my husband had to put both my kids to bed. And, I tell him, okay, mom's going to class. And the next morning, my 5-year-old asked me, he said, what are you learning in this class? And I kind of had to step back and be like, what do I want to say to him? And I said, do you remember yesterday when you got really hard on yourself because you put your shoes on the wrong foot? I said, I'm learning how to not be like that to myself. And I hope that when I learn it, I can teach you how to not be like that too.
You are making me tear up. I'm tearing up. That was extremely beautiful. You made it so simple, right? And I think that's why it hits in such a meaningful way. Beautiful. Okay. I'll go to Julia for the next question while I recover. We're going to talk about each of your journeys, which is perfect, right? We're kind of already getting into that. So we're going to just start with what you feel most proud of. So when you think about your growth, Julia, there are so many things I feel proud of you for. There are lots of things that I really want to say, but I want to hear it from you.
God, there's so many things. I think coming back to that self-compassion piece is huge, and leaning into myself and like my authenticity is what I'm most proud of. Just being like so rigid in how I was thinking and how I was viewing being a leader and being confident and moving into a certain level within the corporate environment. I'm just so proud of myself that like those constraints have been lifted. And now those have been lifted, I see things differently, even in the workplace. Like I've noticed that, yeah, there's a lot of imperfection in the workplace and there's still people who are in leadership and don't get everything right. And so I'm just really proud of the ability to get out of that perfectionist mindset and to view things differently and to give myself a lot more grace and compassion. With that has come a lot of that well-being that we have talked about. Not overthinking every little thing, not feeling anxious all the time, like vibrating at a very lower level in terms of my nervous system. And so I think for me, that journey from where I started to where I am today is like, I'm really proud of that because it's just, I feel a lot lighter. I feel like I'm just like loving myself a lot more. And with that has come a lot more opportunity and expansion in ways that I didn't really think I would get.
Are there any specific like opportunities that you feel proud of?
Yeah, I guess I view things differently. Like in my day-to-day job, I feel like I focus a lot on like needing to know all the right answers and like spending a lot of my time and energy on that versus I think through the program, I've learned where I'm going to get the most value and like where I'm going to push myself and grow into leadership. If that's something I'm interested in, is like doing those things that are really scary, like reaching out to an executive and saying like, hey, I have an idea for this, or telling my manager that I want to like take on a project, or speaking up in a meeting when like I'm really nervous and scared, but I really want to share my thought. And so that's what I mean around like expansion and opportunities is like, that's what I'm focused on now. And then recently within the workplace, I've just said yes to opportunities and they were really unclear and very gray. And I was able to like handle them and move on and work through all the difficult emotions that came up. I've been able to change my angle of like where I'm prioritizing my focus for my career. And I think a lot of that will help me move to the next level rather than fixating on like knowing all the right answers, which I don't think is going to be as like productive for my career.
I'm so excited for what's next for you. That's going to not just help you grow, but with less stress.
Yes, exactly.
I'll pivot to you, Christin. So let's get your thoughts on the growth question. So in terms of your growth and evolution, what do you feel most proud of?
I'm at a really challenging point in my life between momhood and workhood. And I think committing, just saying yes to the program, I was proud of that. Back in the day when I didn't have a lot going on, I would commit no problem. But now I really have to choose where I'm putting my time and money. And committing to this program was definitely one of the best things I've ever done because I don't feel like it's just helping me grow. I feel like it's helping anybody I speak to grow. And like that is so powerful. Like it's really, really powerful. So I also feel like the mindset tools have really, really helped me. And utilizing those on a daily basis has been like become a daily meditation for me. And I'm really proud of that growth.
I'm so proud of your growth as well. And it's so wonderful to hear each of you reflect on that. So the next question is slightly related, but we'll see if new ideas come up. And then if not, we'll skip to the one after that. But it's around just belief in what you can do, like belief in what you can accomplish, belief in your depth and abilities as a leader. So why don't we stay on you, Christin, and then I'll go to Julia. Are there ways in which your belief in what you can do as a leader has grown, or just your belief in yourself overall?
Oh, for sure. This course, I've told you, just like came at the best and the worst time. Is like our organization was going through a lot of change and I was either going to get a really big promotion or our company was going to get bought by somebody. And I remember talking to my sister about these two options. And she said, well, are you nervous? Like, what are you going to do if your company gets sold? And I said, I'm actually not nervous. I'm not where I am because of the company. I'm where I am because of me. And like, I will get myself back to a place that I'm really proud of. And I just felt this internal confidence of it's Christin who got myself here. So 1000%. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. How about you, Julia?
Yeah, I think my belief in myself has grown in ways in which that I don't feel like I'm lacking anything anymore. Like I feel like I was like lacking a skill or lacking knowledge or lacking always something. And now I just feel like I exist knowing that I have everything I need to succeed and I'm not lacking in anything. I'm not like chasing this one piece of information or one skill that's going to be this light bulb thing that's going to like help me evolve into this person who I am today. And so I just feel a lot more confident in myself and like everything that I have. And that with that, I'm able to do whatever I set my mind to rather than feeling like, oh, once I get this or once I know this thing, I'm going to miraculously be able to like step into leadership, for example. And so that's just one way in which like my belief in myself has grown.
Love that. Let's stay on you, Julia, and then I'll loop back with Christin for the next one. So the next one is belief shifts or light bulb moments where something we talked about or something you learned really opened up a new way of thinking. Did you have any of those, Julia? And if so, what were they?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier this idea of self-compassion being a performance strategy. I've always been really hard on myself. Maybe that comes from like having Eastern European immigrant parents who are just really hard on you. But I always thought of like performance strategies as like pushing yourself, setting goals, just a very intense way of like moving towards what you want in life. And so I think when we talked about self-compassion, it like rewired my brain a little bit to be like, being hard on yourself doesn't get you any further. If anything, it like takes you out. It takes you out for a day, a week, and then it kind of like kills your confidence because you're going to just overthink, overanalyze, overprepare, and just like be in this constant anxious state. So that was like a big light bulb moment of like the more that I can be compassionate to myself and like after a presentation or maybe I didn't say things the right way or I wish it had gone differently, I would just give myself compassion, whether that was with language or going for a walk or doing something that felt like filled my cup. That helped me rebound a lot quicker and like move on rather than like sitting in that for a while and letting it kind of impact my beliefs about myself. So that was a big light bulb moment. And I think that's really helped me move through difficult situations quicker and not let them like hold me back from doing things again. And then the second light bulb moment was around this idea that you had said, like leadership isn't about never having difficult emotions or like achieving this state where you're immune to difficult emotions. You had mentioned like leadership is just having a higher threshold for difficult emotions. And that really resonated because as I said, I've always been focused on like feeling like I need to achieve this certain level of whatever versus focusing my efforts on just like being able to handle those difficult emotions. And then the higher capacity you have to handle difficult emotions and difficult situations, the more you can just like put yourself into the rooms and in the situations where I think you need to show up as a leader and be able to handle it and move on. Because you'd mentioned like, as you step into leadership, there's more at stake. There's like more opportunity for a mistake. There's more critical feedback. And so it's not like one day you're just going to wake up and like not be bothered by it or not make mistakes or have all the answers, but it's just your ability to like move through things quickly. And I think that also helped me just like feel like leadership was a lot more accessible because it wasn't about having all the right answers or like being a certain way. It was just about being able to like handle those situations and like move on.
Yes. Ah, so powerful. How about you, Christin?
Yeah, I mean, I had probably two big light bulb moments. The first one is just realizing that so many people struggle with the same thing and like, oh, I'm not an anomaly. Like, I'm not alone in this. We should know that like people all, but we don't. And so like listening to the podcast, hearing other people's experiences, I'm like, okay, this is normal. And that made me feel really good and like very like safer to explore the edges of my vulnerability with the group. So I think that was like one of the first pieces. And then I think the second piece was, this was more on the executive communication part of the course, but like when you're looking to get opinions or drive an agenda, prioritizing the relationship with the stakeholder is so much more powerful than just driving your own agenda. And I did have a light bulb moment in one of the sessions of like, oh my gosh, I finally get it. That it was really exciting for me because I think unless you are intentionally trying to do this work, you might not come across this type of thing on your own. And so that was really, really powerful for me to have some of the curriculum backing up my internal light bulbs going off.
It was also fun to watch you just so quickly learn and adjust. Like
yeah,
the
one day I was
week, yeah, you nailed it. I was like, great. Yeah, amazing. Okay, last question before we get to the closing section. So, Julia, what's a milestone or celebration from somewhat recently that you feel proud of and why?
One milestone or celebration recently was being newer to my organization, I did want to get more visibility with senior leaders. And I had the opportunity to work on a presentation with one of our senior leaders. And I just thought that that was like a really great opportunity. And I worked alongside her, took a lot of the tools that we used in our program in terms of like how to run a meeting, setting an agenda, kind of the cell framework. There was a lot of like ambiguity in the project, but I just kind of like trusted myself and like moved through it. And it ended up being a success. And I got really great feedback from my VP. And that's kind of catapulted me having other opportunities and like doing the same presentation across different locations and being put in positions where it's like, okay, you have to do a live presentation with like very little prep and being able to do it. And so that I think couldn't have come at like a more perfect time because it took everything that we learned in the program and like was like a real live, a little bit higher stakes project to not only kind of flex the tools that we've leveraged, but also do it in a higher stakes situation. So I'm really proud of that and just getting the feedback, trusting myself throughout the way and just knowing that I'm doing a good job and just not overthinking things. And to what Kristin's mentioned, like obviously there's going to be moments where you have ups and downs. Some days you do let something go and other times you kind of sit in the difficulty of it. But throughout that experience, I was able to kind of lean on all the tools that we've learned and do a really great job. And I think that's just been like more evidence for me to like keep giving myself props and like keep giving myself the validation that like you're doing good. You can trust yourself. Just keep doing what you're doing and everything's going to be okay.
So proud of you. That evidence is so important, right?
Yeah.
Because we're doing a scary thing to believe that we can do more. And so then when we have those moments where we're like, oh, I did well, it's working, I can trust myself. It's so helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. How about you, Christin? What is a milestone or celebration that you feel really proud of?
Throughout the duration of the course, I got a big promotion to, like, I was handpicked by our CEO to be the COO. So that was a really big milestone for me. I think without the course, I would have had severe, debilitating imposter syndrome. And I think with the course, I definitely had moments of imposter syndrome for sure, still have them, but they are just less frequent, less intense, less debilitating, and I just move through them. And I'm almost equally as proud of that than I am the actual promotion.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And I love that you are both setting such an important example that we are not trying to become perfect. We are not trying to never feel emotions. We are trying to become the versions of us that are strong enough to move through those things in a way that we feel proud of and in a way that gets us closer to the outcomes we want and allows us to be the person and the leader we want to be. All right, we made it to the closing questions. Final stretch. Let's stay on you, Christin, for this one. If somebody's listening and they're thinking, what if this isn't possible for me, right? Or like, no, my confidence struggles are bigger, right? I'm more stuck. What do you think is important for that person to hear?
I think that if you feel like you're someone that's more stuck than the average person, first of all, I would challenge that thought of like, why do you feel like you are more stuck? And what is the evidence of that you're more stuck than another person? And then I think secondly, if you go through the thought process of why that is and you believe it, then I would just say that confidence is a journey. And it's like, how do you eat an elephant? It's like one bite at a time. Not that you would eat an elephant, but it's just an example. But it's just a slow process that if you commit to the work, you will see change. And it might not be fast, but you will see change. And then you can get momentum on that change.
How about you, Julia? What do you think that person needs to hear?
I would say it's possible for everyone. And to Kristin's point, like it's a journey and everyone has different circumstances. I think that's something I've come to really realize. There are some people who are just naturally more confident, and that's because of X, Y, Z, how they were raised, early experiences in life. And so I think just knowing that it's possible for you and also like not being so hard on yourself and recognizing that you've had different experiences that have led you to feel a certain way and you can't compare yourself to other people and their journeys. But sometimes it's like, oh, I wish I was more confident, or I wish I didn't have some of these challenges. It's like, okay, well, let's take a step back and really recognize like where they come from and why you have them. And different people have obviously had different experiences that impact their confidence. And so I think that if you can just know that it's possible and recognize that your journey is unique and your struggles come from a certain place and everyone is going to be at a different level in their journey, I think that can just like help you give yourself that grace to like move forward and just know that it's possible for you.
So for the next one, I'll go to you, Christin. So the podcast is called The Art of Speaking Up. What does that phrase mean to you?
For me, something that might seem really mechanical for people of like, oh, I just need to speak up. There is an art to it. Like it's not a science. And I think what this course helped illuminate in me is like, how do I want to display my quote art of speaking up is like, how does it manifest through Christin in an authentic way? Because speaking up wasn't really a challenge for me. And so learning how to do it in a way that made me feel good even after if I would have bad thoughts, I think was part of like shaping my art, if you will.
Yes. Oh, so powerful. How about you, Julia? What does the art of speaking up mean to you?
I mean, this kind of plays off of Christin's point, but like all different pieces of art are so unique and there's so much like meaning and kind of intention behind all of them. So I think everyone's experience of what it looks like to speak up and to show up and become that 2.0 version is different. It is an art and it's all unique to your individual voice and to your individual journey. And I've really viewed the program as an opportunity to kind of lean into the art of speaking up and into that individualism rather than it being a science and this fixed thing that you need to follow.
Love that. Okay, Christin. So for the closing question, the context behind this question is when I created the show several years ago, the intention was to speak to people who are struggling to believe in themselves because I really struggled with that throughout my career. And so I really wanted to uplift and encourage anyone listening who is just looking to build their confidence. So with that in mind, are there any last words or thoughts that you would want to leave someone with?
Building confidence is like not something that happens. Like you have to put work into it. And obviously this program outlines the work that you can put into it. You can obviously find different resources. I don't think it's something that you just achieve passively. Like you actively need to put some work into it. And with that work, I think you kind of get out what you put into it. I'm not sure if that's encouraging or discouraging, but I know that it does take work to achieve what you're looking for. And you can't sit back and hope for it to happen. And I think this course is an excellent example of putting in work and getting something extremely valuable in return.
I personally find it encouraging because I'm someone who's like, I'm willing to do the work. Just, like if there's a way, I'll show up for it.
I'm sure a lot of your listeners are willing to do the work, but like, I guess discouraging in the way of like going to the gym. It's like, you got to put the work in to get something out of it. But like, it can be discouraging. Like, oh, I actually have to go to the gym. And it's like, yeah, but at least Jess's gym, you don't have to change into your workout clothes. So Jess's gym is like, you just got to sit in front of a computer and mentally commit to it. And it's going to change you.
I need a sign now that says Jess's gym. We're doing reps on self-compassion. Come on in. Okay, Julia, I'll turn it over to you. What are words that you would want to share with someone who is looking to believe in themselves a little bit more?
Yeah, I would just say there's like nothing wrong with you. Like you are perfect. You are amazing. You are so capable. You have like all the skills, all the knowledge, and it just takes a little bit of practice. It just takes like the tactics and the work that we've discussed. But to begin with, like there's truly nothing wrong with you and you're probably doing a lot better than you think. And that's what I would probably leave with.
Amazing. This is so beautiful. And question, Julia, do you want to read those lines from your Toastmasters speech? How are you feeling about that?
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to.
Okay. Amazing. So you were in Toastmasters.
Yeah.
When did you do this speech?
Last Wednesday.
Oh, so very recently.
Yeah.
Okay. So just context for everyone listening, I learned that in Toastmasters, Julia gave a speech about this program. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, that's amazing. That's so meta, right? Because it's a program on finding your voice and you gave a speech about it. But then I really wanted to know what you said in your speech. And so I asked if you would share an excerpt on the podcast. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I'll share the beginning, like my opening, and then the end. It really summarizes like the journey from the beginning to the end. Yeah. And envision lots of like hand gestures and vocal variety and all the things that we learn in Toastmasters.
Okay.
So have you ever imagined the 2.0 of yourself at work? The version who shows up fully as yourself, speaks with confidence, and communicates with clarity. For me, that 2.0 even had a name, Boss Beep Julia. I'll let you fill in what that word is. And for most of my career, it felt like she was so close. I could see her. I could feel her. But self-doubt, my inner critic, and anxiety always kept her out of reach. So recently, I decided to change that. And over the last 6 months, I've been on a journey of unlocking my You 2.0 through a coaching program called The Art of Speaking Up. I will now wrap up with how I finished it off. I shared the 3 lessons that I learned throughout the program. So the first was the importance of silencing the inner critic. The second was that self-compassion is a performance strategy. And the third is that the heart of leadership is emotional mastery. And to wrap up, there was a question. So did I become Boss Beep Julia? Well, she was never truly a destination. She's already inside me. She's not someone I become one day, but rather a state of being I can access every day through quieting my inner critic, treating myself with compassion, and leaning into the difficult motions rather than chasing perfection.
So beautiful. Thank you for being willing to read that on the show.
Of course.
Your writing is really lovely. It really summarizes it beautifully.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thank
totally.
you.
And I did have a thought actually while you were sharing your encouragement of like, you are perfect. You have everything in you. And everybody has a bicep muscle, unless of course genetically you were born with that one. However, most people have bicep muscles, but they're always there. They're there. And it's like, if we choose to work them out and make them stronger, they will perform for us and help us build up that body resilience. It's kind of a cool concept to think about. Like all of us have all the muscles. It's just how we decide to work them and grow them and strengthen them that can make the difference in our physical. And then for this analogy's purposes, mental performance.
Yes. It's just a question of what within us we activate. It's all there.
Totally. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you both so much. This was a beautiful interview. I'm so excited to hear it back and to work on the episode. And I just appreciate both of you so much for coming on the show and being a part of this.
Thanks for having us. And most importantly, thank you for this work that you do because it is, I just can't say enough good things about it. And you're truly impacting not just the people but the people's kids and partners and everybody. It's a ripple effect. And I think it's really something to be super proud of.
It was such a joy to get to work with both of you and to get to know each of you and the different parts of your journey and to be on the journey. And both of you had really interesting journeys. So I'm just really glad that you came into the program.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see me and Christin. And I feel we started at a very different state, and I'm sure everyone did. And we all kind of have our own journey and own evolution and own outcomes. And so it's interesting that we've all kind of gone through the same programs and we've each had different light bulb moments and different growth. And I think that's so cool. It's a testament to the program just being for a wide variety of people all trying to achieve different things. And so I think that's really cool.
Yes.
Yeah. That's so spot on.
100%. I'm so grateful to you. I know that you all have very busy schedules and lots going on. So I so appreciate the time that it takes to do this and do the prep session and all of that. Just want to thank you both for doing this and all the kind words that you both have shared, not just today, but I really, really, truly appreciate how both of you were kind enough to share your feedback with me.
Of course.
Yeah. Thank you so much for everything, Jess.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and a big heartfelt thanks to Christin and Julia for coming on the show. One of the reasons that I feel so grateful to these women for doing this interview and to all of my clients who have come on the show is because one of the main reasons that I started this podcast is because when I was in the corporate world, in my corporate career, struggling with self-confidence and imposter syndrome, I would go to women's workshops and women's lunchtime panels and all of these settings designed to help professional women. And over, I kept hearing the same stories about women who had quote unquote made it because they did everything right and got it right and they were perfect and they figured it out and they're balancing it all. And it started to make me feel frustrated, and it started to make me feel like maybe my struggles weren't normal. And I started this show because I wanted to be an honest voice telling other professional women, hey, I have created a ton of success in my corporate career. I landed the executive title. I had all of the accolades and wins, but it was messy along the way. I wasn't perfect. I had emotional hangups and struggles and insecurities, and that didn't stop me. I was able to get through it and find my voice and succeed. And I wanted to share that message so that we know that it's okay if we're imperfect, and it's okay if there are difficult things that we are working through. And so when my clients come on and they open up and they share their story and they're raw and real and authentic, they're doing such a service to so many other women. And I just want to thank them for that, because it is a bold move to come on this show and be interviewed. At least I think so. And if you are feeling inspired by both of their journeys and you're thinking, I want to experience this transformation for myself, come join me in the next cohort of the Art of Speaking Up Academy. Applications open Friday, December 5th. Inside of the Academy, you're going to spend 6 months with me and a small group of professional women who are going to be cheering you on and motivating you as you learn how to speak super powerfully, quiet that internal voice of self-criticism, and build an internal psychological strength that makes you feel unstoppable as a leader and super proud of the version of you that you are becoming. Enrollment opens Friday, December 5th. It's the first Friday back from Thanksgiving. Make sure to add yourself to the waitlist. This way, you will get priority access to enrollment and exclusive waitlist-only bonuses. Click the link in the show notes or go to jessguzikcoaching.com/academy to join the waitlist. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to Julia and Christin for coming on the show, and I will catch you all in next week's episode. Bye!